Namaskar. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Indian AvGeek. This is episode number 5 and my name is Vishal Mehra. Today on the show we have the CEO of Famous Innovations, Mithila Saraf, the one-woman agency powerhouse who joined Famous back in 2012 when the office had 0 clients, 0 laptops, and a whole lot of ambition. Armed with a dual degree in economics and communications from NYU and early stints at NBC New York and CNN IBN, she is the secret ingredient behind game-changing campaigns for Titan, Swiggy, Zivame, Wildcraft, and much more. Twice a Cannes Young Lions winner, Impact 30 Under 30 honoree, and an ad age rising star, Mithila now leads Famous Innovations as the CEO, proving that you can start with nothing and build an award winning, culture shaking agency. Tune in as she spills the tea on everything from hybrid agency mastery to why empathy is the ultimate creative superpower. Mithila, welcome to the Indian AvGeek.
Hi, Vishal. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. How did you and advertising happen?
So it was quite a coincidence actually. I studied journalism at NYU, and I always thought I wanted to be a journalist. Then I worked at NBC in New York, and I came back to India and worked at CNN IBN. And it was quite an eye opener for me because I realized that there's no such thing as journalism in India. And my idealistic eyes were opened. So I was like, if I am gonna go over to the dark side, may might as well go all the way. And that's when I started looking at advertising, and coincidentally somebody connected me with Raj. At that time he had just Raj, for context for other people, it's Raj Kamble, who's the founder of the agency that I work with. And people connected me with him, and he was just in the process of setting up the agency. It was like week 3 or something since he had decided to start his own company. So yeah, that's how I ended up joining him.
Raj Kamble, of course, one of the greats of Indian advertising. As someone who joined Famous Innovations in December of 2012, when the agency had no clients, how did that early scrappy phase shape your leadership style today, Mithila?
It shaped everything. I think it shaped me as a person, even beyond leadership. When I joined, it was basically Raj. Raj had hired another person, Sumit, who's now the head of our Delhi office, who's also a partner in the agency. But this was my first job, and I joined pretty much as an intern. And, so it was Raj, Sumit, and me. And Raj and Sumit are both art directors. So whatever they couldn't do, I did, basically, right? So it could be anything from, managing clients, writing copy, making coffee, booking flights, like it was everything. And I think that really shaped me as a person because um it put this spirit of like roll up your sleeves and do things in me, and that doesn't just limit itself to advertising. That's everything. We were in a phase where we were just figuring it out, right? So suddenly we got invited to a very large pitch. We don't have a team. How do we make it happen? We figure it out, right? So I think that spirit is something we still carry forward. While of course today we're a much bigger agency and there are a lot of systems, processes, things are organized, but there is this inherent style that, this is our work. We care about it deeply. We care about every client really deeply because our bread and butter depends on that, right? And that's why any challenge that's thrown on the table, we will figure it out, right? And that spirit stays no matter what our size is and style of working is.
Excellent. I'm going back to our first meeting. I remember walking into a Pernod boardroom, and you were there already, along with Raj. This was during my last stint. I was working for DDB 22 Feet, and you were the business head of Famous Innovations. Both of us had won a piece of the Pernod Ricard business. Mm, so you were the business at that time. Now you're the CEO. Talk to me about your journey.
For the last 12 years, I feel like every 2 years my job has changed. So even though it's within the same agency, I feel like I've done six different jobs in the last 12 years. So I started off, like I said, as an intern. There wasn't really a title. We did whatever we had to do. You could call it project manager, you could call it whatever. And then our first few clients coincidentally were from Bangalore. So we within the first 2 years we won Titan, Sab Miller, Zivame, Wildcraft, Mahindra. Part of Mahindra was in Bangalore, which was Reva. So all of that. So this happened back to back, and that's why we decided to start a Bangalore office. And we had actually hired somebody as the head of that office, as the head of that branch. And I moved to Bangalore to sort of help him transition, because I was handling these clients from Bombay, to settle in, select an office, get a few people in, and come back within 6 months. That was the plan. And then turns out I was there for 7 years. So what that example tells you is, over the last 12 years, everything that has happened in my career has been like a series of coincidences, right? A series of like events unfolding and me going along with them. So I ended up spending 7 years in Bangalore. Eventually, I became the head of the Bangalore office. And when we pitched for Pernod Ricard, that's a pitch that I led, and this was during COVID. And we had really become location agnostic at that point. So that's why that pitch was in my plate. And yeah, when we won a whole bunch of different brands. So we divided them across offices, but I was kind of like the central business unit head for Pernod Ricard as a whole, along with a bunch of other things. So that's what happened. But I think core to it was, a few years before that, when we had the then branch head quit. Um, and I remember feeling like I didn't really like Bangalore at all, and I wanted to come back. I'm a out and out Bombay girl, and I wanted to come back. And I remember feeling like, now our branch head has quit. We have to kind of start from scratch. How do we do this? And talking to Raj, that saying that, I want to come back. And Raj said, "Is that what you're going to do? You're going to say you went to Bangalore, the office shut down, and you came back? Is that what you want your trajectory to be?" And Raj has this way of putting things in the most provocative way possible. So he kind of encouraged me to stay back, to take over the office, to rebuild the team pretty much from scratch, because when the branch had left, a lot of people who he had hired also left. And yeah, and that's where the journey of being a business head started. And then it was literally like that. So I chose a new office. That office was mine. All the people were mine. I was literally the person who would come first in the morning and leave last in the evening. There were days when I was opening the office and closing the office, and I felt like a true Marwadi, on the galla. Like I was like that. So that's why. So yeah. So then I was having fun, and then eventually we pitched for Pernod from that office.
Right. I guess resetting up the Bangalore office would have been a real challenge, but as a CEO, what has been your most significant leadership challenge that you have faced, in terms of managing growth or client portfolio or something else?
Going to be 3 years that I took over as CEO in December. And there are two significant challenges that are probably the most important ones to talk about. I think every CEO in advertising will tell you the first one, which is people, right? Our biggest challenge is finding the right people and retaining the right people. Um, Nurturing them. People come, we have, I mean, the beautiful thing about advertising is that we are full of characters. Everyone is a unique character. Everyone is a little bit crazy in their own way. I think you have to be a little quirky, a little crazy, to enjoy this industry, even if you're not a creative person, you're a servicing person or a strategy person or whatever. But there is a certain level of madness and eccentricity that you bring with you, right? But then when you have 150 such characters across three offices, that becomes a challenge, right? So I think number one, attracting the right people, even if they come from various backgrounds, ensuring that they share that spirit of that entrepreneurial mindset that we believe in, that sense of passion that we really want in all of our work, that sense of enjoyment that we want in all of our work. None of us do this job as like a 9 to 5 job that just needs to pay the bills, right? I don't think you can do advertising that way. So I think attracting that mindset, and then once you attract it, nurturing it and retaining it, and also creating a version where their madness and your madness sync, right? And you create a symbiotic relationship where the people are growing, the company is growing, and people are kind of feeling fulfilled all around. So I think that has been my biggest focus and biggest challenge in the last 3 years. We've been lucky to actually bring on board some very, very good names in the last 2, 3 years. We have a new creative head in Bangalore. We have a new chief transformation officer, Shiv Seturaman, who joined recently. We have a new ECD in Delhi, Saurabh Sabiki. So these are some names, but overall, we have made some bold steps in hiring in the last 3 years. Now it's more about ensuring that along with them we create a culture where more and more people want to come and want to stay. So that's challenge number one. um Challenge number two is that we famous as a whole, we grew in a very scrappy way. Raj is a true blue entrepreneur. Like everything is very hustle oriented. Everything is roll up your sleeves and do everything. And Sumit and I grew up with him, so we also grew up in that same spirit. And I've also been that person always, right? So always in the middle of action, always wanting to do things. I can't sit still for more than 10 minutes. But as we mature as a company, how do we take that energy, but also turn it into a systematic, well oiled machine, right? I think the last 3 years, we've really spent time creating systems and creating sort of leaders across the company, so that we are not just a entrepreneur driven agency anymore, right? And that has been one big challenge. And while doing that, we also want to ensure that we don't lose that spirit, right? So while we want to be a big company, we want to scale, we want growth, but we don't want to lose that spirit of joy, of entrepreneurship, of feeling like this is our own thing and really kind of getting our hands dirty and doing it. So how do we balance that? That's something we've been working on.
How many people do you have now across all your offices?
It's about 150 people.
All right. I was watching the Good Ads panel some time back, and I vividly remember something you said, Mithila. I really wanted to ask you about this. Mentioned that once you reach a certain scale in an office, I think you mentioned 75 odd people, you try and maybe pause the growth, or you open another office. Is that something you guys are still practicing? And just help me understand, how does that work? What's the thinking behind it?
From some historic experiences. But I think the idea is that you should be at a scale where it is still a company where that leadership is involved individually, right? I know people's names, birthdays. I know where they live. I know who their boyfriends are and husbands are, and what's going on with them. So I think that kind of connection you can only have till a certain level. 75 has been that magic number for us. Um, Beyond that, you can't call it one agency anymore. So we do this where we call it an agency within an agency. So for example, famous Bangalore operates entirely independently, right? It has its own leadership. They manage their own clients, their own P&L. They have their targets on awards, they have their targets on retention, etc. So, and the leadership then has complete control to run it the way they want to run it, right? As if this was it's second to having your own agency, right? I always tell people that if you want to have your own agency and you don't have the confidence of just going out there on your own, you join Famous. It's like that. So that's how we've been operating, because we really feel, I genuinely believe this, I don't think advertising is a scale business. Advertising is deeply personal, it's deeply subjective. We try every single day to take away the subjectivity and bring in, more objective parameters, but you can't take away that truth that it is deeply subjective. And it is all about relationships. It is your relationships internally as well as your relationships with the client, right? You cannot do that if you have 200 clients, right? Nobody can have a relationship with 200 people. So I think that that's why, limiting the size, but ensuring that we go deeper in terms of value, we go deeper in terms of quality, we go deeper with every client and ensure that we are, taking more and more charge of their brand, is what we've been doing, right? So it's not, we often say it's not the Levi's model, it's the Diesel model, right? Where you do fewer things, you stay till a certain size, but you do them meaningfully.
Right. Does that mean you often have to give up business, or rather decline pitches? How do you balance it out? How do you ensure you're scaling up the agency? Because at the end of the day, all of us want to grow, right? From an organization point of view, from an individual point of view as well.
Yes, yes. So there are two things. I think number one, we take our ongoing client relationships very, very seriously, right? So if you see our, out of our, so we have maybe 20 clients across three offices, 20 brands. Some of them are, one company like a Pernod, but 20 brands across three offices. And the highest value ones are also the oldest ones, and they all go back 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, right? And we are a 12-year-old agency. So that's saying a lot. So brands like, brands across portfolios, from Aditya Birla, from Titan, from Hire, from Pernod, we worked with them for several years. And those relationships are very, very precious to us. And we invest all our energy there, right? A high value client, that is also a long term relationship where there is trust, where there is mutual understanding and support, is something that we hold very dearly, and we ensure that we hold them tightly, right? That's number one. So what that does is that relationship keeps growing organically, so we can do more things together, or we can work on more brands within the same company, right? Or we can kind of ensure that we are delivering growth year on year on that client. So that's number one. So that doesn't really require you to scale in terms of size or in terms of manpower. It requires you to think deeply and keep investing in the quality of the relationship. The second thing is that we are very, very selective on pitches. I think the pitch culture in this industry has absolutely gone off the rails, right? It's abnormal. There is no, I don't think there is any other industry that would sustain this kind of pitch culture and let it happen, right? I'm sure you experience this all the time as well. So there are dozens of pitches coming up every month. There are pitches being announced on LinkedIn, right? People are calling for pitches, like seven agencies are being called for a pitch for one film. Like eventually it's one script, and you're talking to seven agencies, and seven agencies are probably presenting, two, three scripts to you. Like, why do you need to evaluate so much for one film? Right? And these are just some examples, but it's really absolutely insane. So I think we as leaders have to be gatekeepers of this pitch process. I am very, very selective and very, very particular about pitches. All of our individual business heads or office heads, sometimes they get hungry to pitch, right? Because it's an exciting brand or an exciting relationship. But I have very specific parameters post which somebody is allowed to take a pitch. And if the client is not giving you clarity on those things, then don't go ahead with the pitch, right? Because if somebody has called for a pitch without knowing things like what are their spends for the rest of the year, what is their budget, what do they look for from an agency, what is not working with their current agency, if they're not able to have this conversation with you, then they haven't thought the pitch through, right? So that is one, on being very selective on pitching, on being very, very protective and possessive of our top clients. right? And the third thing is that, like I said, there's growth doesn't just mean you keep adding more and more and more. It's more also about diversifying. So a few years ago, we started a second agency called Garage, right? Garage was actually started because the leadership in Garage is very different and very unique. And the agency is built to their strength, right? We didn't feel we can just bring these leaders on board and make them part of Famous. They come with their own strengths, their own capabilities, and that's why they have, again, that same thing of them being entrepreneurs in their own right. So Garage does a lot more on the digital media, performance marketing, SEO, ORM. It does a lot more on, hyper personalization, AI, all of that, which really comes from its leadership strength, which I won't pretend is my strength, right? So that's another way that we've grown, by ensuring that different capabilities can exist and can do their own job.
On the pitch red flags, absolutely agree with you. Those LinkedIn pitch calls are simply obnoxious as far as I'm concerned. I think we all have to respect the business we are in and the work we do and not to get sucked in to all of this. But maybe a conversation for another time. Which industry verticals, Mithila, are you most excited about right now? And in terms of revenue, also in terms of work, I keep seeing your work for different industries, for different brands. The last piece of work I remember was the film that you have recently done for Oppo. Which industry verticals are fueling your growth right now?
We've never designed ourselves based on certain verticals. I think without actually planning for it, we do a lot of work with fashion and lifestyle brands, right? So our highest concentration would be in fashion and lifestyle, including, I'm also including jewelry in that because jewelry has become more lifestyle. And then second would probably be electronics and appliances. But I think if you see what cuts across the work, right? What is truer to us perhaps than to any other agency, is that we get the pulse of the youth, we get the pulse of the premium consumer, right? So I think if you wanna, there's a joke going on, in our industry, that if you wanna sell a 50 rupee soap, there is one kind of agency for it, right? But if you really want to sell something aspirational to a premium audience, and also have a brand that understands and speaks the language of the youth, that's something that we have really been able to crack. And I genuinely believe that that's also the future, because India as a whole is moving towards premiumization, right? So as our next generation become more exposed to the world, I think that kind of communication is just going to become more and more relevant. So whether it's for Van Heusen or Titan or Mia Jewelry, or your American Tourister, Hire, these are all very different categories and each brand has its own challenges, but you will see a signature of aspirational lifestyle. You will see a signature of youth connect, of a certain aesthetic and fashion appeal, a visual appeal that really speaks to this Instagram generation. All of that is something that's true to our work, regardless of the category. And then across categories, across industry verticals, there are different brands that need this, right? So it's more like we're slicing it horizontally rather than vertically.
Staying on that, social media and video are set to lead the growth of the industry in terms of revenue and ad spends. At the same time, Q-commerce ad solutions are emerging as the next big frontier, right? There's lots of excitement in that category, lots of stuff happening. How are you advising brands to invest their budgets across these channels?
No, without even thinking twice, I think most brands are now investing 50 to 60% of their budget overall is going towards digital, and digital includes all of this, right? So that has just been the trend all across. And while we don't work with most of our clients on media planning and channel planning, but what we do ensure is the when we are presenting our ideas, our campaigns, the campaigns transcend from the big tvc to the smallest idea of something you can do on a instamart, right? One of our recent presentations for L'Oreal Matrix, the one slide that had an idea for something you can do on an Instamart and Zepto is the one slide that actually got picked up and was presented in Paris at their global summit, right? And this is a massive campaign that we're doing for L'Oreal Matrix. And of course, it has many parts to it, but that use of that channel is something that got picked up and discussed internally among L'Oreal as an example, right? So what we are ensuring is that we stay diverse in our thinking. We think across channels. Our ideas include things for search. They include things for like your display banners. They include, but how do you use all of these intelligently, right? Of course, everyone does the hygiene and we do that as well. But when we are ideating, we're trying to use all of these channels intelligently, and we keep pitching those ideas to our clients. While we don't have an active role to play in their channel budget planning, but what happens is that if you are presenting an interesting idea and that idea sits on q-commerce, then the client is going to spend more behind that, right? Because then that is something that gets them the eyeballs, gets them the results that they want. So that's what we keep doing.
Excellent to know. You were just talking about this big pitch you did for L'Oreal recently. Can you walk us through a recent big client win and what really differentiated your pitch according to you?
Sure, sure. So recently we won the mandate for Nilkamal Sleep. This is an integrated mandate, including mainline and social, right? And from the feedback we got, so we were extremely excited because it's the same thing, right? It's a legacy brand. It's in a category that may seem dull and boring, but it is a category that's at that pivot of becoming a lifestyle choice, right? The category has become modern and premium, and there is opportunity for a brand to truly come in and become this beacon of the shift that the category is going through. A lot of D2C brands are doing it already, your Wakefits and Sleepy Cats of the world. But for a brand like Nilkamal to take this challenge, where there is already so much legacy and so much prestige and equity, it's a very unique position, right? What we understood from the feedback from the pitch, what worked in our favor was number one, how we were able to take a brand, understand its legacy, understand its DNA, and modernize it, right? This has also been true back in the day for our pitch for Raymond, which was more than 10 years ago. It has been true for our pitch for American Tourister. In all of these cases, we were working with brands that need to be very, very conscious of their image. They sell all over India. They need to ensure that they are not suddenly seeming schizophrenic or just young and yuppie for the sake of it, but they are evolving and modernizing. So I think that's something that stood out in our approach. The strategic position itself, which will be released in a few months to come, for Neil Kamal stood out. Again, it is a position that is lifestyle first, that speaks to this modern, young, premium consumer, and that differentiates the brand significantly in that category. And then the third thing that stood out is because we, as an agency, we have blended this world of, the traditional mainline agency and the new age digital agency, these two silos very well. So we've often found, and clients give us this feedback as well, that they find that agencies are good at either or, right? You have on the one side your legacy traditional agencies that are very good with probably strategic brand building, long-term thinking, film-led ideas, stuff like that. And then on the other side, you have a whole mushrooming of digital agencies that have done amazingly in the last 10 years and have grown so much, and they're able to understand the digital medium. They're able to deliver scale and agility, but they lack strategic depth and creative quality, right? So I think we have been able to bridge that gap very seamlessly. It's visible in the kind of people you'll see in our leadership, in our teams all across, in the kind of mandates we have, the brands we have. And I think that also stood out in the Nilkamal pitch because they needed both, right? They couldn't just survive with either or. And brands are increasingly tired of working with multiple agencies, each one of them doing one part of this puzzle, right? All of this puzzle needs to come together. And I think that's something that worked in our favor as well.
Last 3 odd years while you've been the CEO, have you noticed any changes in the process of acquiring new clients? Anything in particular you have noticed that clients are looking more and more for?
So I think what has changed is that people are asking for more and more in a pitch, right? And this is happening across categories, across clients. A pitch used to be a platform for the agency to showcase its thinking, for you to see the level of passion, the talent, and the chemistry that is going to be there in the relationship to come, right? Now it's almost like people are expecting that you present the whole hog in the pitch itself, right? And present everything from your strategic thinking, your annual plans, your radical ideas, how you're going to do social media, how you're going to do the big campaign. Like the laundry list is just getting longer and longer. Agencies are partly to blame for this because I think when clients used to take a call just based on a glimpse of the thinking and the process and the people, then agencies didn't deliver on that in the rest of the deliverables. You know what I mean? Like it was all very rosy in the pitch, but it didn't translate in the actual relationship. So I think because of that, now clients want to see everything in the pitch, and that's making the pitch process cumbersome, expensive, long winded because there are multiple rounds. So again, this comes back to the point we discussed earlier, that this is where the leadership in an agency plays a role of saying no, of setting the boundaries, and of deciding what is it that you'll really deliver in a pitch. And it should be something that's fair to the client as well as fair to the agency in terms of effort. And you should take the pitch when you are confident that you align with the client on all your other areas of interest. So I think what has gone up in the last 3 years are expectations. Second thing that has changed dramatically in the pitch culture is the frequency of pitching, right? I think clients are calling for pitches a lot more frequently. Those days of one brand staying with an agency for 5 years, 10 years are behind us. I think it is detrimental not just to the agency but to the brand as well. If every year you have a new custodian for your brand, you are not going to be able to build a brand, right? The best relationships and the best brands are built when both parties are invested over years, right? Because nothing happens in one year, nothing happens to a brand, right? So I think that this change in the frequency of pitching and the frequency of changing partners, I feel it's cyclical and it'll go back again. But these are the two major changes that I've noticed in the last 3 years.
Something I keep hearing from clients is that, we expect you to understand our business deeper and better, and not just my business. You need to understand the entire category, to so on and so forth. But all of that happens when there is a certain depth and longevity to the relationship. All of this certainly cannot happen in the second month of working together. You would, of course, do your homework and your research before pitching, but that will only get you so far. It's a tricky one, but I just want to stay on pitching for a bit, and I want to ask you if you can share an example of a particularly challenging or unconventional client acquisition that you guys have had, and how did your team succeed?
So this is many years ago. This was probably our first year in advertising. I think as in our first year as an agency. I remember we had this one pitch for a very big client in Bangalore, and there were 11 agencies pitching. And we went in and pitched, and we did our best. We did the usual thing that you would do at a pitch. We presented the campaign, our understanding of the business, brand, etc., etc. Um, and I think it went well. The room was fairly neutral. Clients don't give you a big reaction within in the room, but it was positive. Then we were trying to speak to the client over the next couple of days, trying to gauge a sense of, how the pitches went. And what we understood is that a lot of the agencies were at par. I mean, when you have 11 agencies pitching, I don't think you'll have like a difference of 0 and 100, right? You'll have them somewhere along the same range. So there was no way for any one agency to stand out. Now, coincidentally, that day when we were in their client's office and we were just leaving the office, we noticed one leaflet that was kept on somebody's table for one of their sub brands, right? And the leaflet was really poorly designed. So I'm not naming the brand because this leaflet was really poorly designed, right? And we just picked it up. So Raj and I were there together and we just picked it up. And over the next couple of days, I think within 2 days, we redesigned this entire leaflet. We made a really nice brochure. And it's a brochure that I'm still proud of, by the way. It's like, it was really beautifully written, well designed, like a lot of heart went into this little
Can you
piece.
tell us which category was this, if
Uh,
not the brand?
this is an accessories, like lifestyle accessories brand. So we really put our heart into that one little brochure, and we were like 1 year old as an agency, so we had our fun, doing it. And we couriered this brochure to them in Bangalore, right? And a few weeks later, we got called, and then there was a second round with commercial discussions, etc. We did all of that. Much later, we found out that, while all the pitches were more or less at par, and there was a lot of debate about which agency to call, not call, etc., all of that, and they weren't reaching any strong consensus because no one agency stood out. It was actually this brochure that helped us stand out a lot, and this was the reason that we were called into the second round. And then, of course, there was a commercial discussion, but we won the pitch primarily because of this one little, and the leaflet was nothing, like our campaign had ideas like we want to launch a store on Mount Everest, and it had everything. But it was this one little touch point that really did its magic. Yeah.
Wow. Reminds me of something we did. We pitched to an aviation client some time back with a model of a black box designed to be a leave behind, and having a brochure or something like that inside. And I think that certainly did help us win that one. I think the client can see when you are putting your heart and soul into something. Mostly.
Sorry. Yeah, I think, that's the thing. We are finally in this business of passion. We are so fortunate that we get to be in a business where you are paid to be excited about something and paid to like just put your heart into something.
Paid to dream every day.
Yeah, yeah. So I think if you really like get out of this day-to-day grind that can happen sometimes and find those pieces where you find joy and the brand finds joy, there's so much opportunity, and clients see that. And I think clients are in this business also because they want that same joy. So that's where you really connect.
Well, that requires a true blue partnership. You've spoken about shifting from transactional pitching to building business partnerships. Keeping that in mind, Mithila, which metrics do you track to ensure client relationships go beyond advertising?
Yeah, so I think one is growth. Growth is the most clear metric that you can track. How much are you growing on an existing client, right? The organic growth. And this can, like I said, this can come from adding capabilities, increasing value, or adding more brands from the same company. So that's something we've done consistently. So if we have a relationship with Tata, for example, we have a relationship with multiple brands within Tata. Um, Same thing with Aditya Birla, same thing with Reliance. So I think that is a healthy metric of the relationship going well. More qualitative metrics like feedback, NPS scores, etc. We do that as well. So we do anonymous feedbacks. We have a third party audit once every 2 years, and we do anonymous feedback where the auditors call the client, not us, and do in-depth chats with some of our clients. So yeah, I think there are these ongoing parameters that we have. But I think the healthiest sign of a relationship is if you are consistently putting good work out there, right? On a brand. If you see our portfolio of work on some brands across years, you will consistently see good work that has built that brand over time. It's not one spark. It's not like, oh, one thing went viral and then the brand was silent, right? It's actual consistent effort. And that I think has moved the needle for the brand. It has moved the needle for the agency. And that's why that relationship continues, that journey continues, right? And this is true for all great brands and their great relationships. It's true for Wyden and Nike, and for, TBWA and Apple. It's consistent good work over the years. So that's what we really aim for. And I think clients see it as well. Your work in year two gets better than year one. Year three gets better than year two. There is a compounding effect to it. By year 10, you are not 10x better than year one. You are like 50x better than year one. So there is a compounding impact to that.
With some relationships, scope creep can become a real issue, right? How do you tackle that at Famous?
So again, it starts with first a few steps back in terms of alignment with the client when you are first coming on board, right? Which is not literally scope alignment. It's an alignment in spirit, in terms of what your mutual goals are, what your mutual way of working is, all those things. Once those things are aligned, I don't think any agency sits with a magnifying glass on the scope, right? Once you start working, you're putting your best out there. You are more than happy to go beyond the scope when the right opportunity comes, if you are genuinely excited about the opportunity, right? There are enough and more examples of this, multiple agencies, not just Famous, but that cannot feel like a one party taking advantage of the other party relationship, right? And that's why the scope creep is just a symptom of a larger problem, which is alignment, which needs to happen right in the beginning. If you are aligned that, hey, we have these common goals and we want to grow together, and we see Famous's skin in the game and the client's skin in the game, if you exceed the scope by 10%, 20%, 50%, you're not worried about it. Because for me, this relationship is not just about this year. It's about next year, next year, next year, next year. And 1 year maybe I'm exceeding the scope, 1 year maybe I won't fulfill the scope, but this client is going to be with me for a long time. We're going to build a brand together. So I think you have to first zoom out and align. It has happened with me repeatedly that relationships start, and within 3-4 months you realize that the fundamental alignment is not there, right? Their style of working, their style of approaching a vendor partner relationship is not what we work with, right? And we are very lucky to work in a country like India, where clients also look at this very emotionally sometimes, right? We've had clients who, during COVID, when their business was at zero, pay us our complete retainer throughout the 2-3 months, right? So I don't think clients are also as cutthroat, right? Clients also want to build a good brand and a good relationship, but you have to find that synergy right in the beginning. And luckily, with companies like Tata, Aditya Birla, Reliance, Platinum Guild, Hire, Samsonite, we've seen this over and over again, that they are not in the business of like trying to maximize delivery from somebody by squeezing them out and making them feel like they got shorthanded, right? I think the businesses that do this, or the companies that do this, are also short-sighted businesses. And I don't think those are businesses that are going to build a brand long term anyway, right? I don't think a Mondelez would do this, right? I don't think an Apple would do this. So if you work with the right company and the right culture, scope creep here and there it's absolutely fine.
We were discussing pitch fatigue. How do you keep your new business pipeline warm without compromising on the quality of creative and commercial terms, Mithila? Is there a method that you guys employ, that your BD team employs?
So we've never had a BD team. We've never had a pipeline. Uh, we've never actually invested any energy in proactively seeking clients or seeking pitches. We are the last people to find out. Like there will be a pitch going on in Bombay, and 15 agencies would be pitching, and it'd be the largest pitch in the market, and we'd be the last people to find out. So we are relatively poor at new business planning. uh, we've been really lucky that we've had clients who are very generous with us, and then they recommend us to their friends, and all of our growth has literally come from one client recommending us to another client. That is the only source. There's no, if I were to make a pie chart of the source of new business, it is only that. It is just one person who's a marketing head or a CEO somewhere has either moved themselves or has recommended us to a different brand, right? So we spend all of our time there on strengthening our relationships and strengthening this amazing family that we've been able to build over the last 10 years. And then that does the job of new business planning and business development. Because I also don't think that in an agent advertising agency kind of ecosystem you can go out and do cold pitching, because the business is so personal, it's so trust based, right? You're handing over a brand to an agency where a lot is unknown. You actually don't know what will happen tomorrow after the pitch is done, right? So in fact, the few times that we've tried this kind of cold outreach, it has never really worked for us. So we are very happy that we get invited to the biggest pitches now, even with just reputation. So we have incoming leads just coming in on their own completely, and we're very happy that our existing clients are saying good things about us out there.
What advice would you give to other independent agencies looking to scale their business? Our industry, of course, is super competitive, and you know about all that too well, right? From when you were a startup to now.
Don't look to scale your business. Scale should not be an objective at all. Look to do the best possible work and develop the best possible relationship, one client at a time, right? So, really, and this has to come from the heart. This cannot be faked. It's impossible to fake. The good thing is that I genuinely do think with many of the new agencies and the entrepreneurs who have recently started their own agencies, the heart is there, right? Whether you see a alap of together or a pallavi of fundamental, or the talented team, there is heart, right? So I think put your heart on the table and do one piece of good work at a time. Develop one good relationship genuinely at a time. It scale will take care of itself, right? The second thing I'll say, sorry, I know you said one thing, but I can say one more is your second and third hire are very important. Like if you've started as a solopreneur, your second and third hire will make or break your business. Your fourth and fifth hire are even more important, right? So because your second and third hire often will become a reflection of you, your fourth and fifth hire will set the culture for the agency, right? So make your initial hires very carefully and really hold them tight like family, right? Like, and I know family is a cliche word to use in the corporate setup, but it is that way. It is really that way. Raj, Sumit, and I had a very weird ritual where, when it was just the three of us back in the day, where we wouldn't leave until all three of us were done with our work, right? So if I'm done and Raj and Sumit are still doing something, I would just sit with them and I would just help in whatever way I can, right? So I think that kind of bond you need with your early team, and really give them, I mean, they're not going to just develop that bond out of emotion. Give them a sense of ownership, give them a sense of reward. Don't keep the rewards all to yourself, even though you are the business owner. So if you get your second, third, fourth, fifth people right, and if you put your heart into the work, the scale will figure itself out.
That's so beautiful and well put, Mithila. from a functional aspect, what trends or technologies do you believe will most disrupt our business in the next few years? I know the number one. I know the number one trend you would like
I
to
know.
say. What
I know.
else?
This is, I think the disruption is already here. It's arrived. I think our world is already different. AI is it's an earthquake in our industry.
Is it a friend or a foe, in your opinion?
It's 100% friend. It's a friend. It's a tool. It's a tool that is going to take us to the next level. Master it, become friends with it. I think we are, so Shiv actually, as Chief Transformation Officer, is focusing a lot more on now applications of AI in our industry. We are particularly excited about hyper personalization with video and targeting with AI, right? So, this combination of hyper personalized targeting, hyper personalized videos, and AI. I think it's like it's rocket fuel. It's gonna take off, so that's something that we are focusing on, but I'm sure AI is gonna come in from all angles in all ways and disrupt in more ways than we can imagine. But the good thing is that I think we as an agency have picked it up like second skin. It is integrated across the agency already, right? It is as natural as Adobe Photoshop to us, right? So I think that's the good thing, and that's what we need to keep doing if we want to get the best out of it.
So AI is your number one and the only disruption you're seeing to our business in every way?
Yeah, I mean, look at
And
it. Yeah,
and every way of the business, right from creative to business to servicing in a way as well, project management.
everything,
Yeah.
everything. I think AI is going to change the way we look at husbands and wives. So business is the next level.
Wow, that's some advice. Okay. And my final question to you, Mithila: what advice would you offer to young professionals aiming to break into agencies? We were talking about how getting the right people is the biggest challenge we are facing as an industry. Because I remember when I joined this industry, and that is what, 19 or so years back, advertising was the coolest gig in town. Simple as that. I wanted to be in advertising. Now things have drastically changed, of course. There are so many more cooler options for young folks.
So, I think number one, only do it if you want a job that doesn't feel like a job, and that's your outlook in life, right? A lot of young people today say my job is a job, and I don't want to give it my. There's no such thing as giving it my all, right? And there are many things that I want to give myself and my time to, and a job is one of them, which is great, right? Which is a shift that we've seen in the last few years that we didn't have. We never had that mindset. We really thought a job is everything. So I don't think advertising is for that mindset though, because like I've been saying again and again, it's an emotional business, it's a passion business. It's I think you need businesses where there are set processes, outcomes, where you are working as part of a machinery if you want that mindset. So I think only join it for the true joy of it, and only that joy will make everything else worth it. And 10 years in, I think that that joy is worth much more than, double the starting salary or whatever I could have made with another business, with another offer. And by the way, this was true even 12 years ago, that advertising paid the least of all the options on the table, right? um
It's just that right now there are many more options.
yeah, exactly. So I think join it if you are truly excited about the idea of creating something, of being part of such a chaotic and diverse industry where you're doing everything from business strategy to retouching a photograph to, you're getting into one day into filmmaking and the other day into anthropology and psychology. So I think if that combination of things and that chaos excites you, only then come in. Second, I would say that if you're already in, and a lot of people ask me, like, how do you grow in the industry? Um, I I think that people say you get the job you dress for. I also think you get the job you play for. So don't wait for that title or that promotion or that that somebody to come and serve you that platform, start start acting like that job that you want to be, right? So if you think you are a CEO, start acting like it. If you think you are a business owner, start acting like it. If you think you are a founder, if you think you are a creative director or a CCO, start acting like it on day one, right? Demand of yourself what a CCO would demand of themselves, right? Eventually you will get there. So I think that so it's like you get the job you're already doing rather than the other way around.
Mithila, thank you so very much for your time. I appreciate it deeply. I've really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed our chat, Vishal, and look forward to talking more soon.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Indian Ad Geek. What an amazing chat with Mithila, so much to gather and learn. Next week, it is the return of the Indian AvGeek, and Mike Malik, the Chief Marketing Officer of Cirium, world's leading aviation analytics and data insights company, will be here. If you have enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might enjoy it. The Indian Ad Geek streams on all major podcast apps. Mithila is at Mithila Saraf on X, and I am at Vishal1 Mehra. Until next time, keep your creative antennas tuned and your ad geek flag flying high. Stay quirky, stay curious, and keep geeking out.